Devious Licks, the Blackout Challenge, the Skullbreaker Challenge. These are just a few of the TikTok challenges that happen to be crimes, but there's still a lot more to cover. So I'm just going to be looking at some of the most insane TikTok challenges that ever existed. Obviously a huge disclaimer and trigger warning for people. I'm going to be talking about some challenges here that are kind of fucked up and include details about people dying. If you are sensitive to that and don't want to watch that, I'm going to have chapters all along the video that you can skip through to, and the ones that will have a trigger warning on them, you'll just be able to see and you can skip past it. But anyway, let's look at some of these challenges. Alright, so this one is probably one of the more popular challenges considering just how outrageous it got. The Devious Licks challenge started off as one person recording themselves stealing a box of disposable masks from their school, which was a pretty harmless thing. I mean, they're still stealing stuff from the school, but it very quickly escalated to a who can steal the craziest shit contest. So people started stealing things. They were stealing soap dispensers from bathrooms to exit signs on the doors, to then somebody literally stole a whole fucking toilet. I don't know how they did it, or if it was a coordinated attack, but maybe it was the movies when somebody has to break out of prison through the wall and they have to hide all their shit when the guard walks past. I can only imagine that somebody is this kid is sitting in the toilet stall just straining and making farting noises and shit like that whenever somebody walks into the bathroom, and then the moment that they leave they start unscrewing the whole toilet. But yeah, after a kid stole an entire toilet, the school was quickly alerted to the Devious Licks challenge, and because it was so common to steal from the bathrooms of all things, all of these schools started just locking and shutting down their bathrooms during school times, which wouldn't have been a problem for a kid like me who prides himself on not going to the bathroom throughout his 5 years of secondary school. I had horrible anxiety. I couldn't even think of going into a stall and having somebody walk in. That would have been the end for me. But yeah, even though it was one of the easiest challenges to talk about, it was probably one of the most popular out of all of the ones that I'm going to talk about in this video. But on to the next challenge. This one just makes me squirm. I covered this in a video that I put on my own TikTok account, but I wanted to cover it in a video here as well. The Skullbreaker challenge is, again, not a challenge. It's basically just a dangerous activity that could land someone in jail or in the hospital, or even kill them. This challenge basically requires 3 people. I'm saying it like it's a fucking tutorial. Don't do this. The trend basically consists of 3 people standing in a line, just horizontally, and the person in the middle of the line is the victim of this fun and wholesome prank. They basically convince the person in the middle that they're all going to jump in the air, whether it's hey, we're going to take a photo of each other where we all jump up in the air or something like that. But whenever the person in the middle jumps, the 2 people on the outside don't jump. Instead, they kick the person's legs out from underneath them, causing them to fall backwards onto their head. Hence the Skullbreaker part of it, which is crazy that people don't really realize how dangerous it is, considering the word Skullbreaker sounds like a Mortal Kombat fatality.
UK wins.
Skullbreaker.
But of course, it was another trend that ended up with people going to hospital and some people facing charges of aggravated assault. Kids facing aggravated assault charges. It was mainly a way to bully somebody into doing it because of peer pressure. But then again, considering the track record of all of these other ones that we're going to cover, I wouldn't be surprised if the person volunteered themselves. People basically ended up with spinal injuries, broken bones, you get the idea. It's one of the more insane challenges that were on this list. But moving on to the next challenge here. And no, I'm not talking about when Ryan Trahan went across the country to deliver Mr. Beast a penny. This one's a little bit more brain rot. This is going to be a pretty quick one to cover because I'm sure you all know what happens when I explain how this challenge works. The penny challenge, okay, people need to stop calling these things challenges. They're not challenges. They're just, it's not a challenge to do something like this. The penny trend consists of getting a wall plug for a phone charger or something like that, and you put it just halfway into a wall socket, and then you get yourself a penny and you just jam it into the fucking PowerPoint. I'll let you think about what happens for a minute. Yeah, it blows up and creates an electrical fire. I'm sure this one could have been easily avoided. Like, it's literally the same thing of why you shouldn't be sticking a knife or a toaster or like a metal thing in the toilet. Don't be sticking metal shit in the toilet either, but it's literally the same reason of why you shouldn't stick like a metal fork or knife into the toaster, because it blows up. That was like the number one thing that I was taught as a kid. Stranger danger, that wasn't a problem. It was just keep the fucking knives out of the toaster. Anyway, yeah, people were sticking pennies in wall outlets and causing fires. Apparently 2 students at a high school in Massachusetts actually faced charges for attempted arson and malicious damage to property because they started a fire by sticking a penny into a wall socket. Guys, just use your head, please. It's not that hard to not commit crimes. So the blackout challenge actually existed long before TikTok. It was just called many different things depending on like where you lived and what school you went to. Because for me, the challenge was called, hey, you guys want to go up to the footy oval and strangle each other and make each other pass out? Probably could have been called something else because that name didn't really roll off the tongue too well. But it also wasn't a challenge. It was just something that kids would do. I noticed that like choking yourself out and like making yourself pass out for kids was like doing drugs, where it was like this thing that was very taboo and like prohibited. Like you weren't allowed to do this thing. It was like dangerous or something, but it also like altered how your brain works. Moments that altered my brain chemistry: when my friend Nick strangled me into unconsciousness and now I can't pronounce certain words. It was always like a dumb thing. I never did it, although I'm sure you probably think that I did. But making yourself pass out was just a very common thing at schools for some reason, so I knew a bunch of people who did do it. But yeah, the blackout challenge basically consists of just holding your breath until you pass out. Now, I don't know if you people have tried to hold your breath until you pass out, but your body like doesn't let you. It's like trying to drown yourself. Like your body won't let you do it. So people had to start figuring out like ways around it, to the point where they were just getting their friends to choke them out. So I looked it up, and choking someone is actually punishable for up to 7 years in prison. Now, obviously the kid isn't gonna go to prison for choking their friend, but their friend could like die from it. But another way to actually do this challenge, if you didn't have any friends present or just didn't have any friends at all, was just to use a belt, which is what some people were doing, which is very fucked up and very weird. I'm obviously like making jokes and stuff like that, but I don't really want to be too disrespectful to the families who like lost their kids. It just kind of goes to show how like anything can be turned into a TikTok challenge if you just put the word challenge behind it. Remember when like kids were eating like Tide Pods and stuff like that? Actually, it wasn't even kids. It was like people in their late teens, like early 20s, that were eating Tide Pods. I just thought about that then. And just realized that I'm gonna have to make another video about this. But yeah, a bunch of kids between like 9 to 14 or 15 ended up killing themselves or suffering like life-changing injuries because they saw a video on TikTok telling them to choke themselves out. That's pretty much it for the blackout challenge. A very dangerous and avoidable challenge if you just like used your head and thought, hey, that seems like it could hurt me a lot. So when I was planning this video out, I actually completely forgot that this was a thing. Like it just kind of sprung back up in my memory when I was like trying to narrow down the challenges that I wanted to talk about in this video. If you thought the Devious Licks challenge from before was bad, just wait until you hear about this one. This one is called the Kia Boys challenge, I guess. It's a slightly more complex one, where this one you have to find a Kia, like the car, any model just has to be a Kia. And then you get in the car and you commit Grand Theft Auto. Not the game, like you just steal a car. I don't know what these people had against fucking Barbara and her Sorrento, but there was just this whole trend of people stealing Kias and taking them for a joyride, which if you didn't know, out of all of these other ones that I've talked about in this video, this is probably one of the bigger crimes. Devious Licks is like petty theft probably, but this is just recording yourself stealing a car. So actually, as well as Kias, there were Hyundai cars that were also being stolen, and it's just because of the manufacturing of both of them. The older Kia and Hyundai models were actually not fitted with an immobilizer, which from what I've read, an immobilizer basically just means that the car isn't going to start unless the exact key is like in or around the car. The cars could so easily be hot wired that people were managing to do it with USB cables, like literally just a phone charger. So you've got the phone charger to steal the car, but then you're going to have the wall plug and you're not going to know what to do with it. So what should you do with it? Well, you should put it into a wall socket and jam a fucking penny in there. You're basically doing 2 challenges in one. This is another very avoidable thing to be a part of. Like, there's so many steps in stealing a car where you kind of can have a little bit of a thought of like, I might get into trouble for this. I might go to jail for doing something like this. But apparently that part didn't happen in a lot of these people's heads. There were like 16 to 18-year-olds doing this. So those who actually got punished or ended up in car accidents, because that happened, I don't really feel bad for them. Because when you're like 18 years old, your brain functions a little bit better than like a 9-year-old who's making themselves pass out over and over again. So I don't really feel bad for these people. But there you have it. These were 5 TikTok challenges that ended up just being crimes. I'm most likely going to do another one of these videos in the future, considering how I just thought about the Tide Pod challenge as well, and I'm sure that I can find a bunch more. I'm just kind of fascinated about how these trends became so viral. I like making fun of people who are dumber than me, and that's not a very common thing. And for the people that are dumber than me, I know where to find them doing challenges like these. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I usually mention at the end of my videos, I have a Patreon where you can continue to support the channel. You can find unreleased videos, extra content just in general, $5 a month, but you also have a 7-day free trial in case you want to just like check it out and then cancel afterwards. That's fine as well. I have a link to that in the description, as well as like all of my other social stuff, my Twitch, my gaming channel, my Zitter. But with that being said, be safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Don't do crime.